Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are taking a look at the latest chapter of Kaiju number 8, chapter 27. This chapter is a beautifully done example of world building. There is almost no plot development, a little bit. The character development is minor. However, the action is so wild and so fun that once again the chapter felt far too short. Now, for all that this chapter is a classic shonen battle manga mid-fight chapter, you know the kind. There are ups, there are downs, our heroes have both found their footing and their stride, then the boss is revealed to be even bigger and badder than you thought. Nothing too serious for them to handle, of course, but the fight is far from over. Yes, this is one of those chapters. Still, this continues to be not just a but an excellently written story. Not one panel is wasted on only action, no matter how awesome that action is. Each panel shows us something about the world that our heroes have to live in. Now, before I get into that and start dropping serious spoilers, I am going to give you a chance to click away. If you do and want something to entertain yourself during the next power outage, you can use the last dregs of your energy on your smartphone to go to Amazon or Google and order a copy of Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, a book of human absurdity. I am thrilled because the book has consistently been in the top 200 bestsellers in the category of humorous science fiction. Thank you so much. And I just got my book published on Google Play Books. On a side note, I will be doing another author interview soon, but this time from the other side of the camera. Someone is interviewing me, so look for that the Sunday after this one. Now, here come the spoilers, and you have been warned. So, world building, that dreaded beast with 1,000 tentacles that is 100% necessary and 1,000% likely to be overdone. Now, excessive world building isn't always a problem. Take a look at Tolkien, for example. The man literally introduces concepts like the flow of commercial goods from one part of his world to another over time. There are 3 entire Great Lakes that are never directly mentioned in the books, but are there, in a completely invented language. Now, good old Tolkien here is an outlier. If pretty much any other writer tried this, no one would pick up their books twice. Tolkien's pure technical skills as an author is the only thing that makes this possible. He makes you so absorbed that you can't stop reading and you just want more. And if you have a question, he has an answer for you. All very satisfying if you are the kind of geek who just needs to know what the major spice trade routes were 200 years before the hero steps over his door threshold and out into the path. Now, on the other side, you have the C.S. Lewis model. C.S. Lewis, who dropped blinking Santa Claus into a completely alien world with no other explanation than the vague hint that Christmas is simply a universal force necessary to a culture in much the same way that water is necessary to the ecosystem of the forest. It is just there. And if you want an explanation, you can blithely well come up with it yourself. World building? Tell me honestly, do you really need to know how on earth the brown paper was made for the packages that Mr. Tumnus was carrying when Lucy first met him? I mean, in a place where some but not all of the trees are alive, where the nearest neighbors are a feudal kingdom with no industrial base, and old Mrs. I can magic up whatever I need is holding the economy in her icy tyrant's grip, how is the paper mill keeping its head above the snow? Who cares? The fantastic creature was out doing his shopping like a normal bloke, so of course he had parcels wrapped in paper. Deal with it and move on. So, there are different takes on world building, and just as the maximalist Tolkien gets away with dropping the Silmarillion due to his genius, the minimalist Lewis gets away with brown paper packages tied up with string due to his genius. We mere mortals have to walk the fine balance between these two extremes. The classic method for us is the tried and true way of putting information into the story in small amounts during scenes that would otherwise just be flashy showpieces. Using the sugar to make the medicine go down, basically. Classic example is the conversation between Ingo Montoya and Wesley during their sword fight. While the hot guys are dancing around the stage in tight pants, they reveal quite a lot about the world around them. Likewise, chapter 27 of Kaiju number 8 lays out the world building in spades. We learn that the Kaiju Defense Force officers on the base are ready to suit up at a moment's notice. However, the off-duty officers seem to take their time off as units, with platoons all going off duty and coming back on at the same time. Meanwhile, we learn that specialists like snipers are available, but seem to be spread out in general combat roles. If snipers are particularly needed en masse, they need to be organized for each situation. Likewise, the running commentary from Kaiju number 10 is revealing a lot more about the mysterious culture of the Kaiju that exists somewhere on the other side of the place in the ocean where the Kaiju emerge from. because someone is controlling Kaiju number 10. Now, I don't mean he's a radio-controlled drone who is being controlled by a remote station. No, but he is under someone's control. Now, from previous comments by Kaiju number 9, we know that there were different factions of Kaiju. He was surprised that Kaiju number 8 interfered with him, but not at all surprised by the existence of an intelligent Kaiju, an intelligent Dai-Kaiju of number 8's power. Now, as it is unlikely that number 9 was working entirely on his own, that means that there is at least one faction of Kaiju and a population of other Kaiju that exist at the same levels of power, but generally mind their own business, at least in the Kaiju realm. So, focusing on the relevant issues, we have at least one faction of Kaiju who were advanced enough to be doing research and even had the facilities to make dragging a live Kaiju Defense Force member back for experimentation a viable proposition. That means that there was at least one faction of Kaiju that has the science, technology, and industry to have some sort of research facility up and running. So we are talking at least a Cold War level of infrastructure if we also add in the fact that Kaiju number 9 knew to block electronic transmissions, as it is highly unlikely that such an infrastructure could exist on Earth without the Kaiju Defense Force knowing about it, or about it being basically without it being common knowledge. That strongly supports the idea that the Kaiju are emerging from another dimension or possibly another world in this dimension. Now here we have revealed, in his joy at the current situation, the implication that someone has been holding Kaiju number 8 back from his stated desire of aggressively going toe-to-toe with a worthy opponent. A core part of Kaiju number 10's makeup is a desire to just brawl. This is in line with the behavior of the Kaiju we have seen. However, he has been controlling these urges, not due to his own desires or plans, but because whatever hierarchy he is a part of forces him to. Now, the cunning and independent Kaiju number 9, I can see repressing his urges for the good of his Kaiju community and the completion of his long-term goals. Kaiju number 10, not so much. The dude is just frothing at his freaky human shark mouth to give and take a pounding. This does not bode well, because you see it strongly suggests that there are Kaiju powerful enough to not only keep Kaiju number 10 under control, but to do it well enough to train him to be useful in complex missions. Kafka and company are in for a deuce of a time in the chapters to come. So, here we have our built world, or rather worlds. We have the modern-day Earth, or at most 5 minutes in the future Earth, with the fanciful what-if of the presence of Kaiju as a force of nature that has always been a factor. We have the Kaiju being a long-established part of the ecosystem and culture of Earth, but having suddenly gone from the yearly typhoon type of danger to the directed military attack type of danger. Then we have the Kaiju world on the other side of whatever ripple in the seafloor they crawl out of. This is a world of different but comparable levels of technological development, but of seemingly lower levels of what I would call tribal cooperation. For some reason, these Kaiju are now deliberately crossing over this barrier. Primarily, it seems to use the humans as a food source. The bigger Kaiju just straight up eat the humans they come across and digest them in the traditional manner. And the smaller, more powerful Kaiju, as represented by Kaiju number 10, spoke of feeding on Vice Captain for sustenance. Despite this being just a more erudite form of speaking, showing Kaiju number 10's intelligence, this implies a more nuanced process than just munching down on human flesh whole. He's not going to eat Hoshina, just feed on him, remove the part he wants and leave the rest. This implies that the more powerful Dai Kaiju have a way of removing the energy from humans that might not be obvious. Maybe that's the point of him frothing at the mouth wanting to fight Hoshina. So, as to avoid ending on such a dark note, I want to focus at last on the utterly wholesome reaction that Kafka had to not be having to be the hero of this chapter. This isn't exactly a surprise because we know Kafka's moral character pretty well by now. He isn't out to be a big hero. His driving goal seems to be of service to his fellow humans. When the rest of the 3rd Division shows up and essentially shows him up in every possible way, when Reno gently but firmly reminds him that his Kaiju number 8 heroics aren't needed, Kafka's reaction is a surge of admiration for the officers of the 3rd Division and a sense of joyful gratitude that he can be a part of it. And that is what I have to say is probably my favorite part of the series. The sense of a pure, gut-deep joy that radiates from Kafka, and has from the beginning. Even when he was at his lowest point at the beginning of the series, there were hints of it there. It is what helped him deal with intestine duty. It was what made him attractive to his fellow workers on the cleaning crew. As soon as he had taken control of his life back, it burst out shining. Kafka is just the kind of uplifting personality that makes everything around him better. This isn't just him being the opposite trope of the dark, gritty, and gloomy protagonist. We know those. The perky, slightly artificial, never-say-die anime protagonist who is always smiling. The perpetual child mind of Goku, Luffy, or a dozen other protagonists you can easily think of. No, that is not Kafka. Kafka is mature. He has looked life full in the face and seen the worst it has to offer, and he still has the capacity for true joy. I'm trying to think of another protagonist like him with this same radiating joy despite everything life has thrown at him, and I really can't. Every time I try, my mind keeps pulling up real people, mostly old men I met behind the counters of small-town hardware stores, retired loggers, and the like. It says something about the quality of the creations of the show that Kafka feels more like a real person than just a typical manga protagonist. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Can you think of another protagonist who has that same feel of realistic, joyful presence as Kafka? Leave a comment below telling me all about it, and punch that subscribe button on your way out. Check out the link below to get your own copy of Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, a book of human absurdity. Monty Python meets Star Trek in this collection of short stories. Now, I just want to say thank you to everyone who left 5-star ratings and even written reviews on the book on Amazon. The book has consistently been trending in the top 200 books in the category of humorous science fiction. For a while, it was in the top 120. Why is that important? If the book can, through number of ratings and reviews, break that top 100 mark, it's going to be a great boon. In the browse function on Amazon, you generally view 50 books at a time in the bestsellers list. Making it to those first 2 pages is a massive boost because most people don't look past the second page, and why would they? They have the 100 most popular books at their fingertips. So, if you haven't left a rating or review yet, it would be really awesome if you could go do that, and bump us over the edge into the top 100 best-selling humorous science fiction books on Amazon. Remember, humans are weird, I have the data. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.